Without Phil Jackson, he's never going to go back to the Bulls. That's over. But if Phil remains, then I think there's a great possibility. But hey, this is the Mecca right here, New York. Hey, it might be a possibility here or LA. He has to have a center stage. He can't be with just any team. He has to have a stage. And what bigger stage than New York or somewhere?
Magic, great to see you. Always a thrill.
Tell my boy Isaiah hello, Bob hello. Isaiah, nobody could do it like us though. See, we had this game moving up and down, baby, up and down.
All right, Magic. Isaiah?
I feel you.
Now, you guys going to go kiss again, or?
Well, that's my brother, and I love him.
And while we consider the possibility, let's step aside for a commercial. It seems like the best plan.
And I was talking to Bill Russell, who was my favorite player when I was growing up. And I asked him about the situation that he was in at the end of his career, and who was going to be the coach. And Russell said that every great player at that level, Russell, Bird, Magic, Isaiah Thomas, they should be able to pick their own coach.
Well, I was in a very similar situation in Detroit when Chuck Daly left, and we had a coaching change, and I had to adjust to a Ron Rothstein and a Don Chaney, two new coaches, and it totally threw my rhythm off. And even in my last year, I remember Don Chaney benched me and played Lindsey Hunter before me. So
he was gone quick.
Well, he was going the next year after that. But what Jordan is going through and what he's talking about with Phil Jackson is that you don't want to break in a new coach. You don't want to have someone who comes in and doesn't understand the way you play the game.
Well, we're already in an era, long since into an era, where that's part of the game. Magic Johnson ushered Paul Westhead out and Pat Riley in the early 80s. Grant Hill didn't support Doug Collins. I don't know if he pushed him out, but he certainly didn't pull him back in, and now Doug Collins is not the Piston coach. Penny Hardaway wanted Brian Hill out, so did some other members of the Orlando Magic, and out went Brian Hill. So Michael Jordan saw to it that Phil Jackson remained beyond when, for whatever reason, Chicago management wanted him to remain, and now Michael says, if Phil doesn't come back, I don't come back.
But that's what makes the Chicago situation so bizarre, because they all want him back, and the people in Chicago love him.
And Jordan nails a three for emphasis as we discuss the situation.
Yeah, and the guys that you talked about, though, they're not at the level that Michael Jordan is, or that Magic Johnson was, or even myself. Those guys that you're talking about, they haven't won championships.
And so you say to yourself, regardless of what friction there may be, as we watch Michael hit the triple again, between Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause and Phil Jackson, regardless of how enamored Jerry Krause may be of Tim Floyd of Iowa State, if you got a team that can win another championship or contend for one, and if Michael Jordan says this is what I want, and it's worked to the tune of 5 titles and maybe 7 had Michael not gone away to play baseball, what's the problem in bringing them all back?
You're asking the wrong guy, Bob.
It's a rhetorical question, I guess. I believe I'm preaching to the choir with you two. Reggie Miller hit at the other end. Now Van Exel with a 3 that's long. And Jason Williams, the closest thing to a hometown star. Grew up in the Lower East Side of New York. College at St. John's. Now representing the New Jersey Nets with Patrick Ewing hurt. There's no Nick in the game. Miller for 3, as he's done so often in this building, and he turns to face Spike Lee. But this might be the one night when Spike is actually rooting for Reggie, since he's got to be, as a Knick fan, pulling for the Eastern Conference.
Bob, Spike never roots for Reggie. Every time he sees Reggie in the Indiana uniform, he roots totally against him.
Reggie almost quit the game of basketball before this season. He's had all kinds of problems, injuries of a couple years ago. Somebody comes in and foolishly, stupidly burns his house down, destroys his whole lifetime of collection and stuff. Larry Bird, when he took the coaching job, he called up Reggie and said, hey, Reggie, look, I know you're going through a lot of trouble here. We need you. We got something that's really special here. Please, please stay with us. We think we can turn it back around. Reggie reluctantly came back to play, and it's really paid off.
And when you talk about Reggie's house burning down, to show you what type of league this is, how the players and the commissioner looks out for the family members, David Stern has taken it upon himself to start a memorabilia collection for Reggie Miller to get back all the stuff that he lost.
Van Exel tried to set his teammate Eddie Jones up when Eddie couldn't finish. Van Exel was there, but there may have been a foul before Van Exel. attempted his shot, and there was. So Eddie Jones is coming to the line.
Well, this is like a regular Laker game right here. Just coming down in waves, throwing the ball up above the hoop and throwing it down.
Well, there's a great all-star tradition of helping to get your teammates off in this game. Karl Malone, the 2 times he won MVP, had 28 points in each game. Stockton had 17 assists the first time and 15 the second time when he shared MVP honors at the Delta Center with Karl Malone.
I remember that game that those two won the MVP there. But the thing I remember most about that game is that was Shaquille's first All-Star game. And I remember him coming to my room asking me for advice. And Joe Dumars and I were sitting on the bed, and this 7-foot guy comes in, and he was the first one to turn Joe and I on to rap music. He was rapping, singing a song about Snoop Doggy Dogg. And that's when Joe and I looked at each other and said, you know, I think we're getting a little too old for this stuff now.
Jordan spins into the lane. The up and under is there for him.
And you obviously told Shaq to inbound the ball, block a lot of shots, and rebound and throw long outlets.
When the guy's that big, you don't say anything to him but okay.
Van Exel threw a crowd with a miss. Jones out of the pack with the ball, puts it back up and no good. Vin Baker has it blocked, and here's Michael. Jordan has 22 points, bouncing to Miller, and Reggie can't finish it. Van Exel slings it back the other way. Jones pulls up for 3. Vin Baker blocked by Smits. Into the hands of Michael.
Vin Baker pushed Reggie Miller out of the way, and Rick Smits came behind him and said, don't push my teammate.
Smits at 7 short goes behind the back to give Jason Williams the bucket.
The Duncan Dutchman on the behind-the-back pass.
Well, he went to school at Marist College just a few miles north of Madison Square Garden. He's got to have some rooters here today.